keep it on, that's fine. You just reminded me to turn mine off, so no worries.
Okay.
If you're gonna be sweating without that, then fuck that. Yeah, keep that shit on. Keep that shit on. All right, let me do an intro super duper quick. What's up, everyone? We're here with a new episode. With a very brand new person in my life. I don't even know their real goddamn name. We have Bathroom Plants. What's going on, my dude? Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be speaking to you on the internet.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we're just on the internet shooting the shit. Fucking what can I call you if you don't mind me asking? Like if real name or not. You want to
stick with Bathroom Plants. I'm
cool. I like that. I like that even better. So how about we'll do BP for now to make it quick.
That works.
Nice. I fuck with that a lot, actually. Yeah, cause I just looked around. I was looking on the Bandcamp, I was looking on your Spotify, and there's it's a pretty anonymous project, and I like that a lot. Yeah. How I feel like this genre, like anything that's like vapor to like signal wave or anything in that fucking weird niche thing is all like super anonymous artists, wouldn't you say? Yeah. It's kind of like the shtick.
Yeah, that's something that sort of drew me to it, and also something I know it's definitely changed a bit over the years, like especially with some of the bigger artists being more open about their real names and stuff like that, but I always liked the anonymous element of it. So for the time being, I'm not really making any effort to be any more known than just as Bathroom Plants. So
that I really fucking respect shit like that, because man, you're bringing me back, because like that's like the reason I kind of like got into music, because I felt like that was like such an allurement, because like my whole life I'm like shown these like bands, where they're like, look at us, and pop artists where it's like just their name and whatnot. And then here comes like, oh, what's the background music to this weird internet video? It's by Aphex Twin. That's fucking weird. And then like there's nothing like those there's no coverage of like those artists like they have for Aphex Twin. Like maybe like there's a rare interview or two if you go digging, and like you can like look on the wiki, of course, but like that's because he's fucking monumentally huge. But I feel like there's like this anonymousness to it, this like, who the fuck is making this, that, and gives it such more pizzazz, dude, like for sure.
And I've always been like interested in that even before vaporwave or stuff like that. Like one of my favorite bands is The Residents, and I don't know if you're familiar with them, but like it
sounds a little familiar, but
but their whole thing was the theory of obscurity, and always performing in some sort of costume or whatever, never really divulging their identities. And then also like people like Buckethead, I always was really drawn to him, and just like so it's ongoing interest of anonymity in music,
right? Like because I feel like you can have like the two extremes are what's really appealing anymore. Like I feel like you can't half-ass either one. You cannot have to be like, I'm fucking this guy, and everyone's like, yes, you are. That's cool. Or you're like just a name, and everyone's like, what the fuck is this? This is crazy. And but if you're just like kind of both, I'm kind of both. I feel at the same time, where it's like I'm very much a name, but then I'm also not I don't know, a personality, you know, but like you could still be a personality with these aliases that are ran throughout this whole like scene of vapor and all electronic, I would say. What was like any people like that got you interested, like that other band and Buckethead and whatnot? Any other like acts that were like stand out for you, like way back? Like, can you remember like some of the first acts that like got you interested in doing arts and like music and whatever the fuck?
Yeah, so honestly, a lot of the earliest bands and musicians that got me interested in making music aren't particularly like related to anything that I'm like making now. Like, like I said, The Residents, Buckethead, Primus,
Oh, nice.
a lot of sort of like, I guess you would call it sort of like your 90s alternative and kind of like weirder, but like mainstream weird sort of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like you and my buddy Kevin would get along very well. I feel like I consider like all that shit like tongue in cheek rock, where it's like very like heroin rock at the same time, if that makes sense. Like real, it's not like we're being weird. It's just like we're fucking doing it weird, and it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Like Mr. Bungle or whatever,
Yeah, I love Mr. Bungle. But
yeah, my cousin got me into all that weird shit.
A lot of that was sort of like the beginning of it, and then it kind of like branched out as, because this was like me listening to a lot of this stuff was like growing up, elementary, middle school, high school, and then sort of like high school and afterwards was where I started more searching and finding my own sort of like interest in music, and not just necessarily like, oh, this is what I know because I hear it on the radio and it jumps out to me,
like
or stuff
the
like
easy
that.
access stuff.
Yeah. And I think after that I started getting into a lot of like free jazz and like noise stuff and things like that. Things more on the outside of what you would find on like your typical, whatever radio station or whatever.
Free jazz and noise. How did that come about?
I don't know. I just like unusual sounds. I like sound and I like music, and I'm drawn to less. I'm drawn to stuff that's very explorative or chaotic and stuff like that. And
that's the word I was trying to think of.
And there was this two radio stations were WFMU and WKCR, which WKCR is like a jazz and jazz, classical, and like they have other shows too out of New York. And I spent a lot of time listening to like their like afternoon new music, which was like, it ranged from like experimental like minimalist and classical compositions from like early 20th century up until like modern stuff. And then it's mainly a jazz station, so it's a lot of like Coltrane and Albert Ayler and just like Eric Dolphy and stuff like that. And so I just started like exploring stuff like that, and just like I think just went down different roads of music like that. And then also like there was a lot of local sort of like noise acts happening, and like I was like within those like friend circles, so like I had a lot of firsthand experience of going to shows like that. So like
we have a small handful of noise people in Philly, at least that I'm connected to, a very small handful. I'm sure there's like a billion dudes with making amazing distortion out there, because I've learned about like fucking drone and shit through all these people, and that like opened my eyes to like a whole nother world of ambient, because like I love ambient music a lot, and so like running into these noise act people, man, they'll show you some fucking shit. Like Sunno, like that's an amazing act. And like I was so like white, vanilla. I'm just like, like Trivium, and they're like, no, here's some crazy stuff. And because I grew up a metalhead myself, and got slowly progressively softer and then weird. So it's always fun to like see people's like progression of like, it's like, yeah, man, I used to do fucking sweeps. It's like now I listen to fucking pop music.
You can go down some really unexpected sort of like rabbit holes of musical interest that like you could, if you were to talk to your younger self from 10, 15 years ago, they'd be like, You listen to what? Like, why?
Like I'm like literally just like coming like it's coming to my head like one of the first covers I think I learned on drums was definitely like yeah like probably some Blink 182
hmm
shit by myself, but like I was playing with my brother's band at the time, and it was like a metal band, and I think we covered Beer by Psycho Stick. Do you know that fucking
No, I
band?
do not.
Oh my god, they're like dumbass fucking comedy metal, and like we covered Beer by Psycho Stick, and I think it was like Birthday Death Day by Death Clock, and cause like we would always play like a fucking birthday party for some reason, and yeah, like I think I just covered a Justin Bieber song today, so the fucking arc is ridiculous, man. Oh shit. That's cool though. What so like you're a musician, I'm assuming. I see all like a couple music things behind you.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you're a multi-instrumentalist as well. What came first for you in your musical journey, my guy?
So honestly, what came first was playing saxophone in elementary school for probably like a year or two. I think I started like the last year of elementary school, and then I played it a little in middle school. But like that's the extent of like my formal training as far as music goes, because I sort of put down the saxophone for like a long time because they weren't teaching it in an interesting way. Like I could look like at the time I didn't know. I was just like, I'm bored. I don't want to do this anymore. But I could look back at it now and realize like why I was bored, and it was basically because like they taught you how to, play the notes on the saxophone, and then taught you how to read sheet music, and then we're just like, here's something from The Sound of Music. Here's like, I don't know, some other show tune. Here's this Christmas song or something. And there was no like talk of like composition or music theory or anything that would have like caught my interest. And it wasn't music that I was playing. It wasn't like, oh, here's some, I don't know, here's like a current rock song transposed to like, for a saxophone part or whatever. It was all like stuff that didn't interest me. So I was just like, threw it aside, didn't do anything with music until sometime in high school, when me and a couple friends, around the time that like we were discovering The Residents, and like we decided like, oh, hey, let's make a band. And so I picked up the saxophone again. My one friend had a bass, and we had a couple Casio keyboards and a really junky tape recorder. And we're just like, yeah, this is perfect for making a band. Like none of us know how to make music, but
amazing.
This works.
Holy shit! What a fucking amazing lineup for a first band. Casio keyboards, a saxophone, and bass. Yeah. What the fuck else do you need? Holy shit!
But
that's hilarious.
Yeah. But then my interest gradually shifted to more like synthesizers and keyboard stuff. Mainly because my one friend who started off with the Casio keyboards, he found a Roland D50 in the trash that like worked fine. And so that became like my first experience with like a proper synthesizer, and not just like, rinky-dink Casio keyboard thing. And just the sound palette that opened up really spurred my interest in synthesizers. And so I gradually just started collecting instruments, both physical and like synthesizer based, because I still am very much of the mindset that like anyone can make music and anyone can play an instrument. You pick it up and you smack it, or you pluck it, or you blow in it, and sound comes out, and you just figure out how to make the sounds you like. So
exactly,
yeah.
We got enough like computer magic to help you, get it to where it needs to be, and voila, there you go.
But yeah, so the last several years, it shifted to mainly synths and drum machines. Like I still have, some instruments that I pull out sometimes, but as you can hear in Bathroom Plants album, it's all synth stuff. And within the past 4 years or so, I really, really went synth crazy and built a little studio with a ton of like rack modules and stuff like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Or rack units, synths, because I really dive deep into that late 80s, early 90s, like new age sound. And I was like, what were the pieces of gear getting used at that time? So like I had sort of like a running list of synths I was trying to pick up for like cheap on like eBay or Reverb or wherever I could get it. And it went from, for the longest time, my setup was just like an MPC 1000 and a microKORG. And then in the span of a couple years, I have like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, like 18 synthesizers now.
That's amazing. First off, I gotta say, love the microKORG.
Yeah.
That was my first synth too. You said a bunch of awesome shit in there. Fuck, dude, that's amazing. I just gotta say, first off, and second off, yes, you do an amazing fucking like synth, like original synth work job on the Bathroom Plant stuff, and we'll get into the albums and stuff later. But what would you say is like some good piece of advice for someone who's trying to set up something like that? Like is there any like pitfalls or like things like you should like step out? Like you said you made a list of like all the fucking ones you wanted to, like anything that's like a necessity purchase that you didn't think you'd have to buy while building this wall of synth or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, so I definitely have a couple pointers from my experience. Number one, I do think having a list of what you're interested in and sort of narrowing your scope of what you're looking for in gear is very helpful. So you avoid that just like, oh, I see it, it's interesting, I want to get it. Oh, I see another thing, it's interesting, I want to get it. And just accumulating gear for the sake of it rather than like, I want this piece because it fills a hole in like whether it's a different kind of synthesis that it does compared to other things, or just like, the sound of it brings something special or inspiring. On a practical note, keep track of how many inputs you're going to need, and always get a bigger mixer than you currently need, because you'll very quickly go from like, oh, I got a shitty like 4-channel Behringer, and then you'll pick up a few pieces of gear and be like, I'm gonna have to swap these in and out constantly if I want to use them or whatever. And I would also say it's definitely seems harder to do with like modern gear, because like companies don't seem to be making as many, but rack units are a godsend when it comes to like saving space. When I originally had my list, I was like debating. I was like, should I go for like the keyboard versions of like, the Wave Station and the M1 and stuff like that, or should I go for the rack version? And like after getting a few, I was like, I don't know what I had in my mind that I thought I was gonna have like dozens of full-size keyboards in my tiny little like shitty apartment. But yeah, compactness, keeping track of how many inputs, and having some sort of a plan of attack as far as like what you're interested in getting.
And I would love to see that list you compiled up too of like what you have going on, because like you got some incredible fucking sounds. And like, what exactly was your goal when you were buying all these? Like, what was like, I want to sound like Myst, like, or whatever, like the game Myst, or like some fucking shit like that. Like anything like, like that? Like that was like total fucking inspired like purchase or reason?
Yeah, I think it was a mixture of things. On like a sonic side, obviously, by the time I was like doing this, where I was like actively searching for new pieces of gear, I had been listening to vaporwave for a while, so I was already sort of like tuned in to that like retro 80s, early 90s electronic sound, and like not just from like music or like but like from like games in addition to like bands and artists and stuff like that, and like incidental music and all the other stuff that gets used in vaporwave besides just like main pop hits or whatever. And then at the same time, I was also getting really into like new age and ambient stuff, both contemporary and also like 80s Japanese sort of stuff. Because for some reason, around that same time, a lot of those artists were like popping up on YouTube. Like I can't think of their names, and also I'm terrible at pronouncing anything. But like like that album Green by was it like Hiroshi something? But a lot of those like 80s and early 90s Japanese ambient and new age artists were really inspiring to me. And so like that was the sort of sound I was looking for. And on top of that, I just since I've always been interested in synthesizers, I've always been like, oh, I can't wait till like I'm in a position where I could afford to like purchase a few more or whatever. And I always thought it was really cool how like, several decades ago when like, digital synths were like first becoming like, that was the new thing, and all the analog shit from like the 70s was like, no one wants this, and people picking up like 808s and shit like that for
when the synths were trying so hard to sound real. And they just were not at all.
And like, you hear stories of people like, oh yeah, like we picked up like, a Juno 6 for like $50 and it got like an 808 for like 60. And I was like, I wonder if, cause like, I was like, everything's cyclical. And so it seems like there's a lot of this analog revival currently happening, where there was a lot of new analog synths being produced, and a lot, all those vintage ones were getting crazy prices on the used market. And so I was like, no one really seems to be focusing on like the 80s era of digital stuff. Like that's still like in the like more mainstream consciousness is still kind of like gross or like not cool sounding. Other than like, like the DX7 has always obviously had some like appeal in its like its infamy as like a big instrument. But so that led me to looking for digital synths of that time that maybe people weren't really interested in currently, or at least that could be found cheaply, because like the little plug-in things like you'd put into the like driver of a computer, like the plastic things, or like an actual keyboard. No, like synth. Actual keyboard, like or like rack mount, but like hardware pieces of gear, because so I was that's sort of how my list started, was looking up like, okay, what were some bigger synths at the time, and maybe what are some more obscure ones, or at least ones that people don't seem currently interested in. Because in my mind, I was like, I think it'd be a lot cooler to pick up a bunch of gear for cheap rather than like spending a big chunk of money on like one big new thing. And so that led me down the lines of just like diving into researching synthesizers and looking at like different models that were made within the same sort of like time frame, or within the same sort of like a company, like, because a lot of times especially with Yamaha, you'll have things where they'll come out with like the DX7, but then they'll have like their cheaper DX, whatever that's slightly different, or like, this and that, these different models that don't garner the same amount of attention. So they're, you can pick them up cheaper. And I think that thought process was kind of vindicated, because now I'm looking at things and I'm seeing people trying to sell M1s for like $700, and I'm like, I think you're aiming a little too high there, but that's cool.
There's a just wait, because it might fucking come, because like I feel like that's gonna be the next revival, is like big 80s revival. I mean, we already have people covering fucking 80s tunes, like pop artists covering 80s tunes and whatnot, like playing on the radio, and I feel like it's just gonna be there. So if it's there at that price now, it'll fucking get bought eventually. Yeah. Just wait. But yeah, that stuff is shit, man. That stuff is really fucking interesting. I love that. There's a lot more. Like, I agree with you, like with the thing you said about buying a lot of things than one like thing that kind of does it all in one. Because I've done both. Where, I bought like this big ass keyboard like a while ago, and thought like, oh, this has so many sounds on it, I'll use this for a while. Like a few months in, like I'm like, I feel like I already hit the walls of this thing. Like, you have one dynamic fucking song, I feel like, I don't know, because one sound is close to the next sound, and I feel like you use it a couple times and it's already like the creativity is hard to get back. Like, you have all these little toys and like different just tonalities and sonicness to it, that brings a whole new life to creating something original and fun. Like, I don't know, that's just me at least. Some people love having the one keyboard or like the one guitar, and that's how they do it. But I don't know. I feel like if you're making interesting electronic music nowadays, you have to have diverse tools. Yeah. Have to have diverse colors that you're using on the fucking canvas.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a benefit to both, and there's sort of like, that balance of finding between the two, because there is something about getting a new piece of gear that's just like very immediately inspiring. Like, just getting a new synth and turning it on and messing around with the sounds, and just like immediately I can find myself jotting down a dozen new ideas for like songs.
That's how I was with Ableton Push. Like, as soon as I got it, I was like, oh shit, every time I touch this thing, I'm writing a new song. I can't turn this on and be like, I'm gonna play around, because before I know it, it's like, fuck, I gotta finish this.
But yeah, so like it's definitely there is something about getting a new piece of gear that can spur inspiration, but it's also nice to dive really deep into a specific piece of gear, especially when it comes to like synthesizers that are very digital synthesizers. There's a lot of weird eccentricities with each of them, and like surface level playing the presets is fun, but when you really start like diving in and seeing what you could do as far as like manipulating the sound and creating new things, that in and of itself is its own inspiration hole to fall into and find new stuff.
Yeah, I feel you. I guess I'm just burnt out on my microKORG, because if I hear, and I've used every sound in that and like adjusted the knobs a million fucking ways, and I just feel like if I hear anything online or anything that's my tune, I'm like, that's a microKORG. Yeah. Hey, that sounds like the ice field, huh? That's Icefield right there. Like some dumb shit like that is just burned into my fucking brain. So
I could definitely feel that specifically with the microKORG too, because like I love it. It was my first like actual synthesizer that I owned. Like I said, my first experience with one was with my friend's D50, but like it was the first one that like I bought and like
You had all the time in the world to fuck with. Yeah.
And I still enjoy it, and I enjoy it more because I got a big like knobby box so that it's easier to actually tweak stuff without having to do that little like you turn the knob and then you look at what parameter you're editing and then you turn those.
Yeah.
But I do definitely know what you like. Don't want to use any of the presets ever. I feel like I used all the presets to like extinction, and then I made my own and also downloaded some other ones I found online and then used those to extinction. And so like I'm actually not related to bathroom plants, but I've been gradually like building an entire new I don't know how many presets it has on it. It's probably like, 100 or 128 or whatever is the common thing. But I've been gradually building an entire new set on it so that I can like have fun using it again and not be like sick of hearing the same things.
Yo, you gonna sell them? Bathroom presets?
I give them away.
Yeah?
I give them away. I don't care.
Yeah, or like just like have them out. Like that'd be a good. That'd be. I'm just saying that'd be a good pack name. Bathroom presets.
I was thinking of that. Even though I don't use the microKORG in bathroom plants, but I kind of thought if I, once I finish making all the presets, it might make sense to
do an album with them.
Because like I was thinking of, I like the idea of building like a preset pack of like this is bathroom plants presets and like letting people have it. But I feel like the microKORG is the only synth that I have that maybe a lot of other people actually have. Like I'd feel weird being like I mean I'd still do it, but I don't think there'd be as much interest in me being like, yeah, here's bathroom plants Yamaha TG33 presets. Like I'm sure there's all of like 5 people who like have that and are aware of me. So I think the microKORG would be a good fit for that though, because it seems like everyone has a microKORG or has had a microKORG at some point.
It's on someone's shelf somewhere. They're like, I got one around here. Like it's in the fucking kitchen for some reason. Like everyone's has a microKORG. Yeah, man. Fucking that's great. That's fucking sick. Are you ever gonna wait, by the way, are you ever gonna put installing Symbiotope how do you say
Symbiotopia?
Symbiotopia on Spotify? Is that gonna be on Spotify?
I don't really have an interest in streaming services. I feel so there's a few I guess like opinions or takes that I have on music as far as like the medium of music that I think is maybe in conflict with like what most people think nowadays. But streaming doesn't do it for me. I'm still like I want to, if I'm listening to something, I want to sit down and listen to a full album. I don't want to hear this and that and that and this. And also I don't like I don't like the economics of it. I think Spotify is really fucking scummy, and just in general, I don't like the idea that like I'm gonna pay to get a distributor of some kind to put me on Spotify and Apple Music and whatever else, and then maybe get a couple pennies in a few years. So like for me, it's like Bandcamp makes the most sense to me because it's like I put it up, people could pay for it if they want, if like I was the only way I could see it happening is if someone wanted, if like in a situation like my release with Golden Living Room that was put out through Virtual Dream Plaza. I think that one's on Spotify. But that was all done through Virtual Dream Plaza, and like they give me whatever pennies share comes from that. But like I have no interest in like going through that effort and on my own. for me, it's Spotify. For me, it's Bandcamp and finding people to put it on vinyl and cassette.
Well, I mean, that's great, you know, and that's because that's a whole nother fucking ball game that I feel like a lot of people today aren't diving into anymore. You know, I feel like it's almost like a lost art. Like even like bands nowadays, I feel like are fucking skipping the Bandcamp, like which is weird because like that's how I discovered Bandcamp. It was like, oh, it was fucking the local bands in my fucking town and city are on Bandcamp, and that's how you get local band music. That's where you put your local band shit and whatever. Like you don't put your stuff on Spotify. Like it costs whatever, but there are ways to do it for like free. But I totally understand, and like, because there's a lot of people that share your opinion on just keeping it on Bandcamp because it's very much your own ball game when it's on Bandcamp. You know, you could do tapes if you want yourself, or you do it through a label. That's sick as fuck. All right, that's cool. I'm a little upset because I really like installing that one. I can't say that. Shut up. I can't say it. Oh man, every episode there's some word I can't fucking say. But yeah, I'm in love with this album. By the way, when you were doing this, what was like the inspiration like behind it? Like I hear like video games, like I'm seeing like certain game moments, and it's awesome because this is like what I love in music is moments. Like a lot of songs are like journeys where it's like this happens and then there's this moment and then here's a low moment and then redemption moment and then the song's over or whatever, you know, up and down. These are beautiful fucking life on pause moments. And I love that fucking shit. And if you want to dive in on like if there's any like games or whatever the fuck or albums you had while writing this shit, like, and I'm assuming this is all totally original synth, no samples at all.
No, it's fully original.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I can I guess talk a little bit about the inspirations of it. So obviously, like I said, it was just generally inspired by where my tastes in music were at the time, be it with like vaporwave and ambient stuff, and sort of wanting to do something along those lines myself. And like, because I listened to vaporwave for years before dabbling in trying to like put something out in it, and I kind of regret not just doing something sooner since I've had such a positive response. But as far as games go, I wouldn't say there's any specific ones, but like game music has always been like an undercurrent of inspiration musically to me that I didn't realize for the longest time until I got older and really thought about it, that like, you know, whether it's like stuff from Genesis games or N64 games that, you know, the really melodies stick in your head, and that like that wonderful like syntheticness of like you know, like something from N64, whether it's Mario or Legend of Zelda or whatever. And I wanted to do something along those lines, not something, you know, it wasn't like, oh, here, I'm going to make a Koji Kondo inspired album or something like that. It was more just like all these influences have been floating around in my mind for a long time. And so take my own stab at doing something with how they've inspired me. And I knew I wanted to stick with instruments that would have been available within that time frame. So like everything on that album is like a synth from 80s, 90s period. Like I think the newest one that I used would be the Wave Station, which I think was maybe 93, 94, something like that. And as I was creating each track, it sort of formed its own story. Like I like to let the music sort of direct me, I guess, rather than going with a hard concept to begin with. And so I started realizing that after doing a couple tracks, I was realizing that I had sort of like two things happening, where I had these very organic and naturey sounding ones, and then I had these very sort of like technology, or like, you know, I'm seeing images of like digital like futurism and stuff like that. And so I sort of then use that as a guide for how to finish, you know, the rest of the tracks and how to arrange the album, because it's very much in two pieces, where it tells the story of the first half being very organic and naturey, and the second half being this introduction of technology and humanity into it, and sort of like this finding a balance between the two in a way that's cooperative and symbiotic. And yeah, so that was the process of that. And then obviously the artwork was done to complement that as well. So it's like nature scene, but it's very blocky, polygonal, retro-y looking. Yeah, that's and then the name too. Like, I have a hard time with names unless I'm doing like a goofier project that I don't like care about or something, where I'm just like, yeah, this one's called Computer Explosion on Mars or something. But I knew I wanted a name that, and same with the track names too, but I knew I wanted something that would get this sort of like soft world building that I was doing across without being like too literal. So, you know, it's
that's hard as fuck.
Yeah.
That is hard as fuck. As someone who's trying to do that themselves, I feel like I'm always hitting main cheese or what the fuck are you talking about, Paul? And it's pretty hard to draw that line. But yeah, it's like goddamn. I feel like every great album in like this tunnel we have of genres, you gotta have great titles. Like because it just shows like the project is fully cared for.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Because yeah, exactly. You had to have them fulfill your fucking idea for these like landscapes and whatnot, and that is so awesome. And yeah, they do really sound exactly like every single one of those. I've always thought that was like the final touch on an album, or like anything really. Like if you had a silly song title, I'm not gonna care about this song. If that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like if like you don't care, why should I give a fuck? And so like if I'm reading like Nymphs of the Rainforest, I'm like, what? Well, let's take a listen. But if it's like, you know, just like, I don't know, just like a silly name, or just like trying to be a meme in like a title, and it's like, okay, well, let's take a listen, I guess. You know, I'm gonna listen to it with a grain of fucking salt. So yeah, I'm glad, you know, we share that same like ideal, because I've gotten such bummers checking out albums, and it's like, what? Why are you titling this shit like this? That's sick though. I want to move on to 9 Reflections really quick. How did you get involved with Golden Living Room? How did that come about?
I just reached out to him. So what happened was, after I put out installing Symbiotopia and got some traction with that, and you know, had the first release on cassette on Palm 84, it sort of like solidified this feeling that like, oh, I'm like headed in the right direction now. Like people are actually listening to my stuff, and like people are interested in enough in it that they're, you know, willing to put it into a physical format. And so I sort of thought that next step is to sort of like set a bigger intention or take a bigger step out of like whatever comfort zone I was currently in. And so part of that was, again, creating another list of artists who either very early on into me discovering vaporwave, like helped get me into it, like finding their music, and also like newer artists at the time that were like I was really digging, and just cold emailing people and being like, hey, you've been really inspirational to me, and I'd love the opportunity to do something with you, whether it's just like a single track or a split album or a collaboration. And Golden Living Room was, I think, like the second or third person I reached out to, and the first to respond, and we just hit it off really well. I think we started with one track first that he had partially finished, and I sort of like put stuff on top of it. And then after that, it just clicked very well, and we were sending stuff back and forth and talking online, and the whole project just came together and
Nice.
came. I think it fulfilled that goal of being a next sort of like big step forward, both as far as like comfort level and doing something new myself, and just like musically. I think there's a huge amount of growth from the first album to that one, and I think that's gonna
it's a lot more
continue as well. So
yeah, a lot more going on, like just like conceptually or
compositionally,
compositionally. I was gonna get it. Man, I don't know why my words don't work sometimes.
words are hard.
Yeah, words are really hard, especially when you have a fucking talk show. Anyway, yeah, that's fucking sick. How do you feel that album is on Spotify? Do you feel weird about it? Do you wish it was not on Spotify?
I don't feel weird about it. Like, I guess I'm indifferent because like I didn't have to do anything to put it on Spotify, so I don't care really. I am not like. I think it's cool. I guess people who use Spotify, it's cool that they could find it on there. But generally, I'm indifferent. Like I'm always more towards pushing Bandcamp or buying the cassette or those very limited crystals that there were for a brief time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I might pick up a fucking vinyl, dog. That looks fucking sick. Everyone should go buy one of these vinyls. They're insane. Yeah, it's a beautiful cover. Fucking, what was I gonna say? Yeah, well, goddamn. What were we just talking about?
9 Reflections.
9 Reflections, that's right. So yeah, that's on Spotify now, because I don't know, that's kind of like how I'm like enjoying that album. I listened to it a couple times on Spotify, and I've like threw it on a playlist or two, because that's just like I could play puzzle games all day listening to that shit. That's amazing puzzle game music. You ever try to do music for video games? I was just chatting with Vivi Vulture, who I'm doing a collab with. It's coming out in October, and they like did a couple games, or at least attempted to do a couple games, and they were kind of shitty. But
I would absolutely love to do a soundtrack for video games. That's one of my big goals that I would like to accomplish. Hopefully, and doing a soundtrack for a video game, doing a soundtrack for a movie, and I'd love to do like a soundtrack, or at least have a track in like a cool like skateboard video.
Oh, nice.
I don't know how well like my music necessarily goes with like skateboarding, but
dog, that would be next level, having a fucking BP song, just like as some dude doing tray flips and like fuck, or just the sound of skateboards hitting the fucking concrete. and it's just you're like synth going. That would be so fucking weird and amazing. Like there would be nothing like that. Like there's no even YouTube videos probably that has some shit lining up that has that same vibe. You got to do that yourself, man. Just get like some Rodney Mullen tapes and throw a song from this on there. That'd be sick as fuck. That could be a whole goddamn social media channel. Like I would watch that. It was just like weird. What would you even consider this? Would you consider this like VGM music? And I'm sorry I'm calling it weird. I'm just like using it to...
No, I love...
So people who listen to like mainstream music, they're like, yes, it is not a song.
No, I absolutely love weird as a descriptor.
Okay, fantastic.
So like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay.
But yeah, I usually classify my, like, if I'm talking about my music, I say it's vaporwave or new age or ambient. If I'm talking to someone who might not have any clue what vaporwave is, like if I'm talking to my grandmother, she's like, oh, let me hear your music. I'm like, oh, it's like ambient stuff. It's like new age stuff. And yeah, I don't think I've seen a sound similar to mine applied to like a skateboarding video, and I think that'd be really cool and unique. And I just like any kind of soundtrack work in general is something that really interests me and something I would like to do career-wise, because when I make music, it's very visual to me. Like it's very creating atmospheres and creating worlds and situations more so than like, I don't know, just telling a literal story and having backing chords or something. Or it's very I guess I think of my approach to music as very cinematic, is I guess what I aim for. Very
hell yeah,
all encompassing.
Very much so. I totally, yeah. Because I write the same way, very much the same way. Do you like have this like picture in your head as you sit down and you're like, all right, this is what this sounds like, or are you like like you have this sound in your head and then you make the picture as you're fucking recording it, and it's like this beautiful, you're like, oh, this will fit perfectly in Symbiotopia shit.
It's a little of both, I think, because a lot of times it starts off with just like I'm fiddling around on the keyboard or something, and a certain melody catches me, and it's when I start building onto it and bringing on new elements where it starts creating this visual element or this like experiential element, and that's when I can more search out for a specific sound or melody that I want, because it forms this idea in front of me, and then I could be like, okay, this needs this sound that'll create this sensation or that'll add to this atmosphere in some way. I like to, I guess like a lot of times I think about music creation as a meditative activity, and being very open and sort of like in the zone and almost in this like non-thinking state of mind where I'm just letting the music and inspiration like flow, to me and out of me. And then once there's some stuff there, going in with more of a technical mindset of like, okay, what does this need to finish it off, sort of thing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, yeah, you can't be vibing doing an EQ. Yeah. You gotta be like, all right, this sounds good. Fuck. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm glad it's exactly how I thought when I was listening to it. It's like, this guy is probably vibing like a motherfucker. Just going in on like a million synths, or he ripped the soundtrack to like some dinosaur search and find game, because this shit's amazing. Like it's really great, dude. I hope you do find a fucking game to compose some amazing shit to that fits this aesthetic. Like find the colored frogs and bugs. Like, dog, that is such a good cover, man. Who did that? Let me look down. Shout out to Michael Burke. Go check him out. Burke.
Yes.
Go check him out on Instagram. Very cool fucking cover.
Yeah, he does. He does really good stuff, and people should contact him for artwork because he's a good friend of mine, and always I can give him very minimal, like, this is what I'm picturing, or this is my inspiration for the album, and just let him do his thing, and he comes back with something that fits it perfectly.
Well, it certainly fucking does. Speaking of who people should hit up, people should hit your ass up to do some fucking visual art and stuff, because you just did the Hidden Temple of Woohoo Islands visual that's coming out on Game Boy Advanced. Woohoo! Yay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll add like a Wii, like cheer like thing right there. That'd be funny. But yeah, that shit is amazing. I think I gotta talk about that for just a couple seconds, because I think I've out loud went like pop like 5 times, just like watching it on my couch. I'm like, I can't do anything for the next 5 minutes. I can watch a chunk of this that they just sent me. This is fucking amazing. And then it's like you'll like bust out the I'm not gonna spoil it too hard, but there's some like the search and find stuff. I was fucking roaring, and then like it all ties together at the end. I was like screaming, like, yo, we really made it, fucking full circle. Oh, great shit! Just like so good, man. Oh man.
Yeah, I'm glad it came out, and I'm looking at so well. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I had a ball, dude. I'm so fucking happy. I couldn't be happy. It's kind of like exactly what I was picturing. And I'm just like, no way I can do that on my own. Like, I can rip videos and blend them together till the cows come home, but there's no way I'm gonna fucking find this footage that I need that you put together. So you do some amazing like 3D Blender shit. Do you want to talk about that for a second? Because I'm probably not just saying the right shit that you're doing.
Yeah, I can talk about it a little bit. I mean, I want to go in with saying, like, honestly, like, when I agreed to do it, I was very much of the same mindset of like, I don't know how I'm like, what it ended up becoming, like, I did not think I'd be able to make that, because honestly, when we were first talking about it, I was picturing of doing something more with like screen capture sort of stuff, where like I would play some Wii games and stuff, and like try to get some specific elements of like the character looking a certain way or being in a certain area or something, and then like finding other assets and filming stuff on my own and compiling it all together. But so last year, being home all the time due to COVID, I decided to like pick up a few new things, and one of them was Cinema 4D and like messing around with 3D stuff. And so I literally like started doing that like last August maybe. So it's probably been about a year now that I've been messing around with Cinema 4D, and literally had no idea what I was doing, but like knew what I wanted to accomplish. So whenever I was just like, oh, I want to make a ball move, how do I do that? And just YouTube search and whatever, and gradually got more and more comfortable with sort of like at least like basic stuff, being able to like move around and know how to animate things simply. And so when you approached me with the project and we were talking about it, I was intending to like, okay, maybe I'll use some Cinema 4D aspect to it for like stuff that's maybe hard for like specific things that are hard for me to find. And as I was doing it, and as I was searching for like assets and stuff, I lucked into like finding an entire Woohoo Island already, like, you know, built, and a bunch of other things. So I was like, you know, like, I'm just going to use this opportunity to dive deeper and explore this style of creating visuals and animating even further. And in the process, like, I learned a ton of new things, and
Did you make that me? Did you find?
I found the me. I think everything in all the 3D elements of it were stuff that I found. Other than, you know, there might be simple things like some cube shapes or some like simple elements. I haven't got to the point where I'm actually modeling things yet. I'm kind of intimidated to.
So you found that bird.
Yeah. Well, the bird actually is a mixture. I found a bird and it didn't quite look right. So I kind of smushed him around and changed his shape a little bit, and then changed his colors and stuff to better look closer to like the little 2D image of the bird. And then had to separate like his wings and legs so that I can animate them on his own. So I guess technically the bird was sort of like my first dipping toes into a little bit of messing around with modeling and stuff, but haven't yet done anything from, you know, like, let me start from a fucking cube and build a person out of it or something. But, you know,
well, fuck, it just puts fucking butterflies in my stomach every time I see that goddamn bird. Holy shit, that thing is amazing. Oh my god. Like, I think I yelled when they hit the lighthouse. I was like, oh shit, look at this. It was, oh man, what, I can't wait to show the fucking world that. And we're both getting a copy too. That's gonna be sick.
I'm really hyped to get that and see that and
crank up the volume on my Game Boy SP. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Oh, that's fucking sick, dude. I'm so glad you know, took a chance on me and did all this crazy shit, because oh my god, it's so worth it. It's like exactly what I asked, and that's probably the craziest part. Like, as I'm typing it, I'm like, it's gonna be close, you know. I'm just giving him the fucking shtick of like what I made the album about, and then you just did it. You just like did most of it. The TV thing was great too. Fuck. Oh my god, so many great things there. That reminds me a lot of like Portal, like Gary's mod at some moments too. So that was super sick. I love those kind of graphics. I like wish I like knew how to do that stuff, or like had the time to sit down and learn it and get the right software and whatnot. Yeah. But I just don't have it in me, I feel.
You'd be surprised. You'd like. I think people don't give themselves enough credit for what they could do if they just, you know, like sat down and messed with something for a bit. Very much in the same way that I think of music, where it's like, you know, you can do whatever you want if you just play around a bit and have fun with it.
Wow. And how about that for a goddamn full circle here on the Forest Kids podcast. Thanks so much for coming along, dude. And let's plug the shit out of whatever you got coming up, man. What you got coming up? Because I don't know what you got coming up. Like,
what do I have coming up? So I have an album that is done, and that I'm going to be... I have a list of names for stuff, because like I said, the naming is the hardest thing to do. And by the time, hopefully today, I think today I'm gonna pick the final names for stuff. But I have an album coming up, and I'm not sure when it's gonna be released. Hopefully before the end of this year. And I think it's really, really good. I'm very excited about it.
Cool.
And I don't think I have anything concrete to plug at the moment.
That's fair.
I know there's still installing Symbiotopia vinyl available.
Yes, there
I think
is.
last I checked, there were still some cassettes of Nine Reflections, although I'm not sure because I think there were only like 5 or something.
Oh, jeez.
And I have. I'm gonna be part of. What is it? There's a virtual thing coming up for Halloween. The Homesick. Yeah.
Fest? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be part of Homesick Fest. I'm going to have some new music videos for that. I have a new video for a track from Nine Reflections that I made that's going to be on there. I'm hoping to get a few more done before then, so that will be cool as well.
Word. I'm playing that too with Vivi. You know, we're gonna do a little collab set.
Cool.
And I'm debating on using a little snippet from the Woohoo thing, but like, I feel like it's just such a journey. It kind of would be out of context and at any point. I don't know. I'd have to, or maybe I could make it like a fun little like interlude, like to end the set. I don't know, but fucking, that's gonna be sick. And I'll see you then. We'll see everybody at Homesick Fest, and go buy a fucking copy of Installing Symbiotopia.
You got it.
201. God it. All right. Well, because I'm gonna go fucking buy a copy, and you all should too. Because look at this art. Look at this art, and then message me. And I gotta say, the tags very on point that I'm now just seeing. So we got spiritual, and we got utopian. That's real. That's some real shit right there. All right. Well, thanks very much for tuning in, everyone, and yeah, we'll see you next time on the show. Whatever. Bye.